This is TWiT.
Yeah, so I mean, design-wise, it really looks like any other modern kind of OnePlus device. It's got a glass back, as you can see. It's got a nice. I actually really like this color in person. This color is really nice. It's not quite as iridescent as some of their other designs have been on some of their previous phones, but it does a really good job of repelling fingerprints and that sort of stuff. But it is a kind of a glass sandwich approach. You've got everything that you expect on a OnePlus device. You've got the notification switch on the side and power volume. The cameras on the back are actually the same camera array that you find on OnePlus 8, not the 8 Pro, and there is a difference between those two. But you get the same one that's on the 8 regular, whatever you want to call it, 48 megapixel main, 8 megapixel wide, a 2 megapixel macro, and then a 5 megapixel depth sensor. On the front, as you can see up at the top, and then Burke, I also have video that I recorded. On the front is actually a cutout in the display with dual front-facing cameras. One of them is an ultra-wide, and then one of them is a standard 32 megapixel. The ultra-wide is 8 megapixel. So you can get kind of, they say you don't need a selfie stick with this camera, which I suppose is true. I've never used a selfie stick, so I wouldn't know. But comes with a yeah, am I? Sometimes I wonder.
It helps when you have. I mean, you have a family of 4. You want to get you all in one photo. But anyway, go on. Sorry. That's
true, but why when you've got an ultra wide front facing camera? Anyways, 6.44 inch 1080p display. It does have 90 hertz refresh on it, so it's got the higher refresh rate. It's an AMOLED display. The device that I have is the 12 gig version. So it's got 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, but you can also get it with 8 gigs of RAM. So you can spend a little less, I think. That's probably what the baseline is the 8 gigs. It's running the Snapdragon 765G processor with 5G support, of course. And 765G is the same processor that's rumored to come with a Pixel 5. I just feel like we're seeing a lot of devices that, I think it's also going to be in the Pixel 4a. So this is really kind of turning out to be the processor, the Snapdragon processor that the flagship mid-range, if that is such a category, seems to be utilizing. Let's see here. 4115, so 4,115 milliamp hour battery.
Wow.
Android 10 running Oxygen OS. They have promised 2 years of updates, 3 years of security updates. This color, by the way, is called Blue Marble, but you can also get Gray Onyx. So there's 2 different colors. There is no IP rating, though, so you're not going to get water protection, that sort of thing. But I mean, overall, my initial impression is that it's a solid glass design. I like that it's a flat front and it's not the curved. I've really kind of grown to not care very much for the curve anymore. So I like the flat.
It seems like everybody is going curved, and so I'm actually surprised that it's flat front. Yeah.
It's easier to use. I think it's more universal. It's easier to use. I mean,
easier to use.
That curve, I see a lot of very angry people on Reddit about the curve.
Yeah, there's a lot of pushback on the curve suddenly. Let's see here. What else? I mean, like I mentioned, it's got the alert slider. It's hard because I can't really get in there and be like, all right, so check this out. But that's coming next week. But I would definitely say that kind of from a design perspective, the Nord complements OnePlus's design aesthetic. It really kind of fits in with their family of devices, particularly like the characteristic that you see on the back here. Now, here's where things get a little challenging. Okay. It's 400 euros. So not dollars, because we here in the U.S. will not be able to get a OnePlus Nord. It's only going to be released in India, China, and Europe. A lot of places in Europe, parts of Europe anyways. Not in the U.S. So that's disappointing. But
that is really disappointing because what you just told us, you gave us all these really great specs. Like it's got RAM, it's got battery, it's got this processor, it's got these great camera sensors that are on the OnePlus 8. but you can't pay this much amount of money for it here. You can only pay this much amount of money overseas. Did we find out ultimately why it's not a US release? Is it just because the 8 is supposed to be that model for the US market?
I haven't heard why specifically. I have heard, I do know through, and I think Marques Brownlee even mentioned this, that OnePlus, because Marques had an interview with, is it Carl Pei from OnePlus? So you should definitely check that out. Where Pei mentioned that there were going to be more Nords coming. So Nord is a family of devices. This particular device releasing where it's releasing, there will be other Nords that are expected to come to the US. So I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere, and hopefully soon-ish, we start to see kind of this experiment rolled into the US and maybe maybe it ends up being like a T approach. You know how there's the 7 and then there's the 7T. Maybe this is like a tick in the TikTok release, and then the next one will be one that the US gets. I don't know. That's all guessing.
Yeah.
But
well, because this would definitely change the precedence of pricing. Like we were just talking earlier about the OnePlus One and like what it was priced back in the day. And I'm exhausted by how expensive things have become based on what I've seen elsewhere. I know. Yeah. Okay, Flo, welcome to adulthood. But I just mean in the sense of what we've seen launch, overseas in China, for instance, the value add that's there and the amount of money that you don't have to pay to get kind of a quality performance device. And so it'd just be nice to return back to that here instead of, oh, you only have $200. Here's this phone kind of thing.
Right. Well, I think it means something to me anyways. I feel like there's something to be said for the fact that OnePlus seeded this device to a lot of U.S. journalists. So you saw a lot of U.S. coverage of this device. More U.S. coverage of a device that isn't releasing in the U.S. at all than I'm used to seeing. That tells me something about their longer term vision for this particular brand to say, hey, putting it on your radar. This is going to be a pretty cool phone. We're not bringing it to you now, but probably somewhere down the line, and hopefully soonish we will, because now's the right time. Now's the right time for a device.
I can't imagine. Yeah, I think you're spot on, Jason. I can't imagine they invest this amount of resource in terms of getting the word out about this if there isn't a longer range plan. So
yeah. So
plus, anyways, with a phone that color blue, why wouldn't you have a longer range plan?
I agree. I
know. This blue goes on for days.
Yeah.
And the blue goes on, and the blue goes on.
So full review happening next week. Should be on Hands on Tech, twit.tv/HOT. Check that out next week. I should have a full review up for that phone then.